Hi, my name is Simon Ellis. I'm the International Creative Director for Schwarzkopf Professional. And today I want to welcome you warmly to the 7th Masterclass that I'm launching, which is all about essential looks and the story behind it. I've been asked a lot of questions, and today, during this Masterclass, I'm going to answer all the key ones that I think are important to give you an insight of how we create this wonderful story called Essential Looks. I joined Schwarzkopf Professional in autumn 2000, and I entered a company that didn't have a particularly distinct image. Even though we were in the professional beauty business, there was no perceived image for the company. And I set about at that time to say what we should have is a very clear image going forwards of what the company should stand for. And that meant it should be authentic, real, honest hair, and equally it should be fashion forward. And for me, that was an inspiration to be able to drive the concept of what we would then call essential looks. The idea was to create a collection of hair, because I believe fundamentally that hair relates around fashion, and fashion is dictated by the catwalks, and therefore it was natural to think that any hair directions we should take should be inspired from those catwalks. And we launched our first collection under the roof of what a renamed Essential Looks in 2001. And I have to say, it was a challenge. It was a challenge to conceptually come up with the trend directions at that particular time, because I actually didn't have a team in place necessarily to assist me. And this was why we then decided to go forwards with working with editorial stylists, who are fundamentally the people who work with the designers in creating the catwalk look. I think it's twofold. One, to excite existing clients. I think you need to be able to motivate them. Number two, I think you need to actually give clients, hairdressers, the ability to think out of the box when it comes to standard salon work. So they need to have, for example, a bob. On a seasonal level, the bob would be a classic bob sitting over the shoulder. But maybe this season on the runways, you saw a layered bob and it was cut to chin length. So you need to be able to inspire the hairdresser in order for them to be able to inspire their clients in turn. And this allows the client to return because it creates loyalty to the salon. Other reason is that at the end of the day, you want to present a really strong image of the company to, as you said, the professional world outside, to non-clients. And when they see that the image is modern, forward, progressive, and if it relates to the image that they perceive of themselves, then you have, shall we say, synergy and the ability to be able to connect. Another purpose in developing a collection like Essential Looks is actually to showcase creative talent. I mean, at the end, how does our company engage with our target audience? In other words, our market, our clients, hairdressers, non-hairdressers. How do we engage? And for me, at the end of the day, Essential Looks shows and portrays the image that we as a company want to portray into the market, but it also allows us the opportunity to be able to showcase both existing talent within the organization as well as new talent. And I think it's really important, if you're going to drive forwards, if you have a collection that is always changing every season, then you need to be constantly updating it. In other words, constantly coming up with new ideas. And where do those new ideas come from? Where do those new inspirations come from? Yes, it comes from the world of fashion, but it also comes from the youth of hair. And so I think it's really important to engage on both those levels. So you have icons of the hair industry on one side, and then this young talent that's hungry to learn, and you're pairing the two together. Absolutely. It's a winning combination. So the motto of Essential Looks is absolutely simple. We bring the catwalk to the salon. Two dimensions, one looking more creative, one looking more commercial. That's simple. Our target audience is all our clients, both existing and future. And for me, that's absolutely clear. Why? Because it is the company image driver. It is the one thing that should be shared amongst the whole of our world. That's really important. And when I do client presentations to potential new clients, the first thing that they often want to see from the company is a modern image. And they want to see all the image-related activities going around that. So Essential Looks is not just a single item of a collection of little hair pictures. It's actually much more than that. It's education, it's events, it's a showcase for innovations. Most importantly, it's a spearhead for talent. And really, for me, the synergy of Essential Looks, linking it to the core products that we are launching each season, is absolutely vital. Products are key to our business. Schwarzkopf Professional is a professional hair manufacturer and supplier. And that's what we do. But one thing which is fundamental to our company in terms of vision and spirit is this idea of relentless innovation. It's really important to us. You're only as good as your last idea. So there's a constant sense of moving forwards. And where do you showcase those innovations? And for us, the best way to showcase our innovations is in Essential Looks. Why? Because it's modern hair, progressive hair, linked to an innovative product. And you're able to really showcase what is truly best about the company and how we go forwards into the market with our innovations every season. To date, we have launched 48 editions into the market. And we're just about to launch or to develop our 49th. So for me, the big mark is 50. Which I hope to hit next year. So tremendous. And it is absolutely something that I find totally inspirational. And I think what's interesting is that a lot of people say, yeah, does it change? Does it move? I would say from what we started in 2001 to now, the concept has evolved. It's never changed. I think the direction has always been there. This idea of linking to fashion. But how we voice it, how we share it, has completely changed over time. The kind of hairdressers that we feature each season in the book and as partners in terms of developing the looks is always two levels. First of all, we have our ambassadors, our global ambassadors, and for me, they are really the true creatives. They are the icons of our industry to some degree. So for me, they are what I would define as editorial stylists. And they're also really great colorists. And I think for me, what's really important to understand is that you need to work with people who are real specialists. So there are generalists in our industry, people who do everything from cutting to coloring, to setting hair and so on. Or you have specialists, people who specifically work in one particular arena of our marketplace, which is really interesting. And for example, you will have editorial stylists who have maybe a background as a hair cutter, but they've moved on and are very good at doing what they do, editorial hair, which is slightly loose, slightly undone, or it can be a multitude of different looks. It's multifaceted. It's absolutely fantastic skill set to have. And it takes a lot of time to learn. But then you also have, in another arena, you have color. And color is, for me, it goes hand in hand with great hair. So for me, it's really important to actually make sure that we work with only real colorists who are simply the best at what they do. So you can have colorists who are specializing in blondes, and there are others who specialize in highlighting, balayage, and so on. So there are specific people who can do specific things extremely well. And my goal, depending on the innovation that we're developing or depending on the trends where we're going, it's really important to identify the team that you want to work with that will truly reflect that to the best ability. The other thing we work with is, the other area we work with is with young stylists, as I said before. And I think it's really important every season to find someone that we want to work with, who we want to champion. And we do that through a variety of competitions. So it can be competition winner. In some countries, we run hairdressing awards. Some of the category winners we sometimes engage and bring in and use as part of our young talent within Essential Looks, which is fantastic. So you're really creating this kind of what I call a 360 in terms of creating an event, finding a champion, and then utilizing that talent in another area to be able to communicate something fresh to the world. The other arena that has grown tremendously, I would say, over the last 5 to 10 years has been the digital arena. And in the last 5 years, I would say the rise of the digital influencer has become truly an important part, an integral part of how our industry is going to operate in the future. And those influencers have a huge following. Again, they're very specialized in some arenas. But I also believe that digital is going to play a huge role in the future growth of our industry as a whole. So it's really important at this stage that we champion things like this. So I try to also ask our countries to nominate certain digital experts who would particularly join the shoot. Sometimes they do their own version, and to be able to broadcast that live during the shoot, to do interviews, to see what goes on backstage and to broadcast and so on, to be part of the whole event. So for me, the most important thing is to create a shoot, create a collection, but the second thing is also to create an experience around how we do the shoot, when we do the shoot. So we engage with both our teams, but also potential clients who would love to engage and see what we do as an organization. And I think this is really an opportunity also for young talent to be able to see how we work as a family. And that's, again, a fundament of our organization, that we think flat, but we think in terms of family as a team overall. And that family feeling is really important, because I believe it's important as a modern company to have modern values. For me, diversity, the question was, is diversity important as part of Essential Looks? And I absolutely say yes, yes, yes. For me, the strength of any modern brand and any look is that it's multiplicity. In other words, its ability to be able to be replicated in different regions of the world. And it's really important. If you're a global brand, then your global image has to reflect where you do business and the world in which we inhabit. So for me, diversity of models, diversity of teams, diversity of product is absolutely fundamental in terms of going forwards. And to do that, when we work on our collections, we try to, if we're working with 6, 8, 10 models, then we really try to specify that we cover all the regions of the world, more or less. And that varies. Sometimes we have more, sometimes we have less. And I think initiatives like Black Lives Matter and so on are really important, because I think they raise awareness of the topic of diversity. I think the other topic, when we talk about diversity in terms of, shall we say, nationalities, race, I think the most important thing for me is also to think in terms of gender, sex, age. So I think diversity covers a lot of arenas. And for example, we have done a collection of older models. So we had the group kind of featuring gray hair. That was really important. We have other, again, when you should not be afraid, in my view, to be able to represent the world in its modern form. And yes, sometimes it's challenging. Yes, there are certain things that are contentious. But I believe as a company moving forwards and looking forwards, then you need to embrace these things. And you need to, yes, challenge ourselves. And sometimes we need to re-challenge our thinking. But it's fantastic. And I think Essential Looks, or mediums like Essential Looks, provide us with a vehicle to be able to sometimes do things that we wouldn't necessarily do at first hand with our brands. So we're able to be in a more or less a spearhead, because I see that Essential Looks sometimes cuts through walls because we're a little bit in the vanguard. We are pioneers, so to speak. So we try things that maybe we wouldn't necessarily want to try out first hand with our brands. How many times is Essential Looks produced a year? I would say twice. I always say twice. And why is it twice a year? It's because it follows the catwalks of fashion. End of story. And what we do is that we always shoot more or less 2 weeks after Paris. Paris is the last show that takes place every season. So it kind of starts in New York, it kind of then goes to London, then it goes to Milan, then it ends in Paris. And it's fantastic because you really then see the full gamut of fashion coming to life. And for me, what's really important is that we ask questions. So what we do is that we normally remain in contact with many of the teams who are working on the hair during the show. And I basically have a questionnaire. And that simple questionnaire says, what are the finishes this season? What are the styles this season? Is it volume? Is it texture? Is it side partings? Is it long hair? Is it shorter hair? What are the key colors? And so those kind of questions filter down. We also ask what kind of products are being used as finishing products to get the kind of finish and texture on the hair. Because often it leads to some very interesting innovations that we can apply to things like our Osis styling line, our Osis session label lines. So these kind of ideas filter downwards and into the whole innovation that we do. And for me, the other important thing is that at the end of the day, you are asking questions around color. And color, for us, is dictated by the kind of materials that are being utilized. So we look at the fabric colors, and that kind of we translate into the kind of hair colors that we want to produce. And so it's, again, sometimes we have those colors, sometimes we develop those colors. So it's a real interesting arena. It's kind of like a real melting pot of what goes on. And based on those questions, then we're able to filter 2 weeks after and lay them out into kind of key trend directions. So what I do is at the end of Paris, we collect all this information from all the shows that have taken place, and we kind of lay them out on a big table and we say, okay, this happened in New York, this happened in London, this happened in Paris. And what we try to do is we kind of create little scratch boards, mood boards, where we kind of lay out the key influences. And then we tend to kind of sit back and think about it for a couple of days. And then from that, we kind of come up with a general mood board, because sometimes there are a lot of similarities between the trends. And you notice that trends tend to evolve every season. You don't suddenly find something brand new appearing. Sometimes you do, but more or less it tends to be a steady evolution. It's a kind of cyclical growth. So you might have a kind of punk spirit, but that punk spirit might, so it's kind of dark and strong. And, it might be really strong eyes one season, but then it might soften out. You might start out with really aggressive colors, lip colors, and that might fade out. You might land up with no lips at all. It's nude, but it's still in the spirit of it. You might have closed jackets, and then next season it's much more transparency. So you see always this kind of evolution, but the spirit of the origin of punk, let's say, is still there. So we have trends at the moment in this latest season, dark romance in our latest collection, which is an evolution from the beginning of the year where we called it punk spirit. So you can see this kind of natural progression that goes on. And I find that really interesting because it's kind of, in a way, how fashion should be worn. You don't go from kind of yellow, puce yellow to midnight black or whatever. You kind of have a natural color arena in which you like to, shall we say, work, you like to dress, and so on. And so, in a way, fashion shouldn't be too revolutionary sometimes. It shouldn't be too extreme or make too extreme a demand upon the individual. The other thing that I think is really interesting here is that for us, creating 2 collections a season allows us also to, shall we say, take the time to, 1, link it to our key product innovations, and number 2, to be able to push it out into the market. Because again, that takes a lot of effort and a lot of energy to get it out worldwide. And it goes out to 126 countries because it is the company image driver. So it goes out to a worldwide audience. So pretty challenging sometimes. And so those kind of 2 key points of fashion are areas of, shall we say, respite. I'm glad there's only 2. Where does the inspiration for Essential Looks come from? It's really simple. It comes from the catwalks of fashion. End of story. For me, they are the one thing that drives our world. The preparation of the collection and the shoot normally takes, I would say, 4 months. So it really takes quite some time to actually, from the time that you have Fashion Week, 2 weeks after we shoot, and then basically you have all the material rollout and all the training that needs to go on. And then more or less, you have maybe a month or 2 months break, and then we start again in terms of identifying lifestyle trends, identifying what we think is going to be coming up on the catwalks, because you need to do some preparation to start looking at the kind of clients that we're going to be involving, to look at the ambassadors we're involving, to look at the videographers that we're involving. So we really look at this way forwards ahead of time on the basis of what we think might be coming up. But most of our guesswork is quite good. In other words, we do a lot of trend research to complement more or less what we see might be happening in next season's fashion shows. We normally shoot the collection here in Hamburg, just from a proximity perspective, and also because of the size of studios we work with. Often the team size is 60 plus people, so it's really a big event. It's a big production because you're doing trend, you're doing still photos, you're doing mood video, you're doing step-by-step educational videos, you're doing all these mood boards that we create, and you're doing digital as well. So we have digital influencers. We also have all the digital material that's been pushed out pre, post, and during. So we're also broadcasting live. So really big, really technical, but for me, absolutely fabulous because it creates a huge content bucket that we can then cut up and use throughout the coming season. This year, Essential Looks went virtual for the first time because obviously we faced some new global challenges with COVID. But this for us is, for me and the team, it was really an opportunity to do something fresh, to do something different. So really exciting. And the way we normally launch Essential Looks is that we create the collection, and then about when all the materials like the book and the videos and the digital material is ready, then what we do is consolidate and we do one big launch, international launch event. Now these used to be physical events that we would do in a show venue or more or less an interesting venue like a photographic venue, photographic studios, even we've done it in a train station and so on. So because we want to create wow. And we invite all our top clients and potentially new clients to this event. We then follow up with what we call train the trainer systems. So we have in each country, we have an Essential Looks trainer who will then train out to all our teams who will then train this to our clients. So it's kind of like a big pyramid. And that normally runs for 1 or 2 weeks after the launch. So really, it's very compact. This year, for the first time, because of the restrictions of travel and so on, we decided to kick off live by doing a virtual event for the first time and a virtual training session. So we launched in Hamburg, but in each country, we invited our clients and even our hairdressers to put down a block and to actually follow the team and recreate the hair in the training sessions. So it really was something that I called a really touchy-feely in some ways, because you were engaging with audiences sizes of, 28,000 plus. It was incredible. So you really were kind of bringing everything to life. And the feedback, I think, has been nothing but superb. I think everybody loved it because it was done differently. And so for me, the key learning, and I'm still waiting to, shall we say, gauge all the learnings from this event because it only happened 2 weeks ago. But for me, it is absolutely a way forwards for the future. Essential Looks is produced in 24 languages, and it is showcased in 126 countries of our world. So really, it is truly global. And why is it that? Because, as I said before, it is our company image driver. It is the face of our company to the world, to the professional hair world. So social media is really important for us. And for me, the way that we drive Essential Looks in the different channels, let's call them channels, I see social media like television channels. And whether it's YouTube, whether it's Instagram, whether Facebook, whatever, for me, the starting point is the content block. So the vision is always that when we do the shoot, you create as much content as you can. And then what we do is we take that content block and we say, how do you cut it for the different TV channels that you're going to be broadcasting on? And that's how I say it. So for example, YouTube is one medium, and that's fantastic, but it's more maybe educational and inspirational because it allows you to give more detail. So that's one channel. But you've got Instagram, TV. You've got, as far as I'm concerned, you've got Facebook Lives. So there are different things that you can do to be able to cut this content and also broadcast live during the event. For me, we often reach up to 1 million people while we're shooting. I mean, it really is that large. And for me, it's therefore vital that the world can see what we're doing. I think what is interesting about the new digital world is the fact that authenticity, honesty are key words, one. And I think secondly, it's about storytelling. And when you want to tell the story of Essential Looks, the story of Essential Looks is not necessarily told by me. It should be told by the actors, the participants in the whole collection. And it's those differing stories seen from different perspectives that create this rich world. And that is fundamentally how our world should be. Rich, exciting, full of wonderful, wonder. So the future of Essential Looks, great question. For me, it is that we need to be 24/7. We need to be always on. Because for me, Essential Looks represents our company image. And it needs to be able to broadcast, shall we say, daily, dare I say. So my attitude is always on, and how do you do it? And I go back to this idea that if you have lots of content, rich content that we're creating, then you spread it out constantly. And it needs to be these constant stories, whether it's about red carpet, it's about festival hair, can be beach hair, beach trends. We need to be able to capture the trends that happen as they happen. And for me, that is the future of Essential Looks.